and gentlemen, Sir Elton John! The late great George Michael with the great tune and the call out for Sir Elton John. Welcome to the morning show for the 23rd of June 2022. My name is David Williams. I'm on my lunch hour. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get a cup of that great WB Law coffee. I'll be right back in a moment. All right, so I just put on a mix from YouTube, and it's 70s soft rock ballads, a non-stop collection. It starts off with Vincent, otherwise known as Starry, Starry Night by Don McLean. And I'm basically going to talk. I'd like to thank Channel Rodney 24 for that. That's the name of Rodney's YouTube channel, I suppose. Thanks, Rodney. So anyway, I'm going to do that segment where I just talk about some news stories that have come to my phone, and I'll just start, off the top of my head. Absolutely. All right, so we see here in terms of the failed insurrection on January the 6th, the Select Committee is looking into it, and, they have some news about that. It turns out that Trump, folks, have you heard about Trump and his fake elector, his fake elector to elect states of fake electors in battleground states all across this country, and so he could get himself another 4 years in the Oval Office. Folks, that's another failure. It's being brought to light by, you guessed it, the Select Committee, and I thank them. They're doing yeoman service for the American people when they do what they're doing. So I thought I had this story all ready to go. Oh, well, skip to the next one then. The Supreme Court overturns New York law on carrying concealed weapons. I think that's a poorly decided decision by the Supreme Court of the United States. It's my show. And again, in just a few days, as what we've been told, the Congress of the United States is set to pass, again, reasonable, common sense legislation to help protect our people from gun violence. That's right. Our people need that protection. Congress is going to do it. I thank them. I thank Senator Murphy from Connecticut and his Republican counterpart, Republican Senator Cornyn from Texas. They got together and they got enough Republican votes to pass it in the Senate. It's going to fly through the House, no problem, if it hadn't already. And, of course, it's going to go to President Biden for his signature, at which point the Supreme Court of the United States, again, unelected jurists, are probably going to override the will of the American people. They've done it before. They've done it again. They're just about to do it on abortion. They're going to overturn Roe. At least they promised that decision in June. At least that's what it came out as when, that got leaked, last month. I had that story, too, about Roe. Certainly, I stand. I am for a free choice. Again, I'm not a lady, And I support the rights of women to do with their bodies, their reproductive freedom that we've had in this country since Roe about 50 years back. The Supreme Court, again, radical extremist right-wingers on the court. They're going to make the country more dangerous for, as they say here, overturning New York law on carrying concealed weapons in this state. Recently, I've talked about Governor Hochul, and recently her and the New York State legislature, they worked on a package of common sense guidelines for New York State. I support those. The Supreme Court's probably going to get set to overturn all those. Again, unelected people are going to decide, 9 people, they're going to decide for all of America, and they're going to make this country a more dangerous place to be. Now it says here, Supreme Court expands gun rights in a major Second Amendment decision. Same story from a different source. Again, they want to expand gun rights while the Congress is working on common sense restrictions. Perhaps maybe it's not a good idea for a 17-year-old, what have you, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, to be able to buy a military-style assault weapon, as was done recently down Uvalde, Texas, at the Uvalde massacre at Robb Elementary School on May the 24th. And so in response to that, and then, of course, the hate shooting of, I think it's about 10 black people in Buffalo, New York, 8 or 9 days before that, and I'm not going to name drop all of the tragic, senseless gun slayings in this nation going all the way back to Columbine, and even before that, I'm just not going to do it on my lunch. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about what Trump has said recently. Well, here's a little bit of that. It says that the GOP is... Now, where's that story? It disappeared again. Boy, it must be kind of preventing me from reading this thing. Well, my apologies for the delay. I'll just take this one from the New York Post. Trump's bid to co-opt the Department of Justice to a fraud is the focus of the latest January 6th hearing. Story written by, says here, Callie Patterson. And I thank Callie for that. And I usually don't read stories on my lunch, but because I messed up and lost the story a couple of times on my phone, my punishment is that I'm going to read this thing in full on my lunch. The House Select Committee investigating last year's Capitol insurrection is turning its focus Thursday, that's today, to former President Trump's efforts to get the Justice Department behind his bid to reverse the 2020 election. The 3 p.m. hearing will feature in-person testimony from former Acting Attorney General Jeff Rosen, former Acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donoghue, and former Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Counsel Stephen Engel. As in the previous 4 hearings, the committee is also expected to play clips from previously recorded interviews and depositions of top Trump aides, family members, and administration officials, including former Attorney General Bill Barr. Closed-door testimony from the former Assistant Attorney General Jeffrey Clark, who expressed willingness to support Trump's false claims, is also expected. I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Anyway, Representative Adam Kinzinger is one of the 2 Republicans who sit on the committee who will lead Thursday's presentation. The hearing is expected to last at least 2 hours. The 3 DOJ officials' testimony will likely highlight the former president's threats to replace department leadership heads if they did not declare the 2020 presidential election illegitimate due to voter fraud. Again, the former president has no proof of that, and he's failed in some 60 battleground states. I need to slow it down. 60 trials in battleground states all across this fine land. He and his failed team of lawyers have failed to produce any evidence about widespread voter fraud. It was something Trump made up, not election night, weeks before the election. The guy was touting this thing, delegitimizing our democracy weeks before the November 3rd, 2020 election. Absolutely. There's definite proof of that. Now, it says here a quote from Trump. Just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. That's what he wanted. Just say it's corrupt, He sounds like his old buddy, they're not friends anymore. Rudy Giuliani, you understand. Yeah, Trump has cut Rudy, well, really the whole Trump family has cut Rudy adrift. And it was Rudy, drunk on election night, who told Trump, just go out and say that you won. You won all the battleground states. Just declare victory tonight. And it's basically games that they've been playing, political games, basically lying to the American people. It's what they've come to call the big lie. And no, I didn't invent the phrase. Now, the committee aides told Axios the hearing is supposed to demonstrate how Trump was, quote, trying to misuse the department to advance his own agenda to stay in power at the end of his term. And, quote, how that really is different from historic precedent. Yeah, that's really different than all previous presidents in our history. All the previous 44, did nothing like this at all. Absolutely. And, of course, Trump was trying to stay in power. That's really what it's all about, is Trump staying in power and, of course, his humiliation at being defeated by Biden. He could never come to admit it, could never pick up the phone and call Mr. Biden on the phone and congratulate him for his victory and wish him well moving forward. President Biden is our president, and his success is the success of the American people. And going back to this story, the committee is expected to hold at least 2 more public hearings as part of its investigation. The final hearings were originally slated to take place next week, but have been bumped to July due to what the panel describes as new evidence. The evidence includes footage from documentary filmmaker Alex Holder, who filmed Trump and his family before and after the failed insurrection, January 6, 2021, as well as documents from the National Archives and new tips that have come in over the past few weeks. Thursday's hearing comes 2 days after the committee outlined how Trump and his allies, mainly the 45th president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, pressured state and local officials to overturn the election results despite any lack of evidence whatsoever. Great story there by Callie Pattison for New York Post. Now, up next, I got a hockey story and a song. Yes, I got a story about last night's Stanley Cup final game and a song when I return. All right, last night was Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Avalanche led that series 2-1, and they were hoping to, go up 3-1, and the game went to overtime. And the final goal. Now, I'm going to play this on this thing that they provide, a game recap video. And so I'm switching to that, and obviously I'm not going to play the whole 11, 12 minutes of it, but really just kind of sweeping it forward to that final goal, so absolutely. And see if I can get that. It's about a minute.
Back in action, denied by Vasilevsky. Oh, what a play! Colorado thinks this is in. I think it is in.
We are looking for the signal from the officials. They're going to take a look at the replay for sure. They think they have won the game.
Here's Kadri, makes a great move on Sergachev. It's going to hit Vasilevsky and then the back of the net.
The puck, Vasilevsky, it goes between his right arm, his blocker, and his chest. And the puck ends up in the back of the net, but stuck. And so people were looking around. Where's the puck? Where's the puck? And they finally figured it was in the net. And good game over, essentially. And so that was a fine clip. And now my song on top of that. Let's see. Now, at first, I was going to do a Rocky Mountain High with the late, great John Denver. Now, I'll be honest with you, I have sort of been rooting for the Lightning, just because they're the Eastern team, the Eastern Conference champion, but I have, all the respect in the world for Colorado. I've lived there before, and I have all the respect for the Avalanche. I certainly do. But then I said, why don't I just tell the truth, what really happened? What really happened is that clip that you just saw and the outcome of the game, 3-2 in favor of Colorado, was, I watched it this morning on YouTube. The main reason was because I fell asleep with the television on. Yeah, I didn't finish watching the game. So we welcome once again to the program Billy Joel.
running distances all night long, all night long. You shoot him down because you're waiting for somebody good to come on all night long. But you'll be sleeping with the television on. Hey! Someone solid here. You can't be bothered with those just for the night boys. Tonight let's take some kind of chances here. Tomorrow morning you'll wake up with the white noise all night long, all night long. You wrote a standing there but somebody once did somebody wrong all night long. But you'll be sleeping with the television on. Your eyes are saying talk to me, but you can't do the show with my eyes. But you won't hear a word, cause it just might be the same old line. This isn't easy for me to say, Diane. I know you don't need anybody's protection. I really wish I was less of a thinking man and more a fool who's not afraid of rejection. All night long, all night long, I'll just be standing there cause I know I don't have the guts to come on. And I'll be sleeping with the television on. Your eyes are saying talk to me. So my attitude is boy, don't waste your time. So I won't say a word cause it just might be somebody else's same old line. All night long, we'll just be standing there cause somebody might do somebody wrong. All night long, we'll be sleeping with the television on. The television, sleeping with the television, sleeping with the television on. Oh, sleeping with the television on.
And that's the God's honest truth. That's what happened. I'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Show. They're dusting off the vinyl over at the Heartbeat of the Tri-County with Lunchtime with the Oldies. In the meantime, there's this story about the golfer Justin Thomas from Larry Brown Sports. And just to quell any rumors out there, Justin Thomas is not abandoning the PGA Tour to go over to the Saudi Golf League, folks. There was another story yesterday about another golfer who was not going. Of course, there was also a story about Brooks Koepka, who is going to the Saudi Golf League. Yeah, he's selling out. And I said something. I said, well, don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out to Brooks Koepka. Absolutely. And the others that are leaving. That includes Phil Mickelson. Now, you guys know I love Phil, but, that's his call. Bad call in my view, but that's the decision that he made after some thoughtful consideration. I'm sure it just wasn't spontaneous, at the spur of the moment. He said, I'm going to go join this Saudi Golf League with Greg Norman. Absolutely not. And so Justin, he puts out a tweet today. He says, before the rumors start flying, I have decided to withdraw to treat and rest my back, which I tweaked earlier this week, just making sure I get it taken care of and ready for the rest of the PGA season as planned. Hate to be missing one of the best / my favorite events at Travelers Champ, which refers to, of course, the event down in Connecticut, the River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut, the Travelers, just for lack of a better way to say it, the Travelers Golf Tournament, a PGA Tour sanctioned event, not an LIV Golf Saudi thing at all. So that's basically something I knew that I knew Justin Thomas would never do that, and so too his buddy Jordan Spieth. They're not leaving the PGA Tour. There are others that have, and yeah, I've name dropped some of them just now and in the past. That's my show. If I want to talk about golf, for example, the United States Open Golf Championship at the Country Club in Brookline, I talked quite a bit about it last week. Now that's over, and now I'll move on to talk about the British at St. Andrews in Scotland, the home of golf. Absolutely. I believe that is the next major coming up. So, yeah, I'll talk about that when it's time. It's almost time for me to go back to my day job where I do cardiac echo. And so one last number before I leave. And, of course, I'll be back after work. Certainly be back after work with something or other. I don't know, but I will. Now, these guys in the background singing, hey, 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 goodbye, I would say hello. Yes, I would play that one, except recently, as we've learned, well, it doesn't work out that well because it gets blocked down in YouTube and all the Beatles, but not from their individual solo careers. For example, if I wanted to do like a John Lennon, Watching the Wheels or something like that, that would fly through fine. Or as I did for Paul McCartney's 80th birthday on the show the other day, I could easily do that again, which was, it was a fantastic song, and with a little luck, that's what it was. I was kind of debating at the time between that one and listen to what the man said as to which song would I sing to honor his 80th birthday, and I decided to go with a little luck. I could have easily done this one.
Anytime, any day, you can hear the people say, love is blind. Well, I don't know, but I say love is kind. Soldier boy kisses girl, leaves behind a tragic world, but he won't mind. He's in love and he says love is fine. Oh, yes indeed we know that people will find a way to go no matter what the man says. Our love is fine for all we know. For all we know, our love will grow. That's what the man said. So won't you listen to what the man said? He said, oh, yes, indeed, we know that we will find a way to go no matter what the man said. Love is fine for all we know. For all we know, our love will grow. That's what the man said. So won't you listen to what the man said? He said, oh, yes, indeed, we know that we will find a way to go no matter what the man said. Love is fine for all we know. For all we know, our love will grow. That's what the man said. So won't you listen to what the man said? He said,
Now, which man was it that told me it was Paul McCartney's 80th birthday this month? That would be Craig Stevens, the same guy who told me it was Brian Wilson's 80th birthday this month, Craig Stevens. And, well, for Brian, I sang Kokomo, the Beach Boys song. I'll be back, folks, after lunch. I got to go now. Thank you for listening.
Is this your final out punch? Have you taken your full uninterrupted lunch today? Thank you.
It's after work. You probably heard me clock out the time clock. Now, I've given that time clock a name, Sweetie, named after the supercomputer, the artificially intelligent supercomputer from the 2000 film Supernova. In the background, soundtrack music from that very same film, Supernova, written by David Williams, not me, another guy, David Williams, out there. And now, why did I do that? Well, I haven't done it in a while, and again, I haven't done that probably in a couple of months, actually. I record myself clocking out, and then, Sweetie, I thank you very much. Absolutely. Now, that's an affectionate affectation for the time clock. But what about this idea about computers becoming sentient, achieving consciousness, thinking for themselves? Well, that sounds like a radical notion, but there's a guy out there who works, or maybe worked, for Google. There's a story in the New York Times that this guy, whose name I do not know, again, I've been busy, but the guy's been sidelined. In other words, they kind of put him off to the side, so that, well, he's kind of like making some waves out there with this claim. He said his computer that he was working on to do some kind of chatbot thing suddenly started talking to him. So maybe not. I don't know. Keep an open mind on the thing. It's interesting. It reminds me of an episode from Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, those of you that follow my program, you know I'm a fan of Star Trek and as well as Star Wars. But sometimes, I like to do that. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do, is talk about. Now, here's the episode. It was kind of like it was like a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing. And the evildoer, Professor Moriarty, he obtained consciousness in the holodeck, is a computer room. Basically, it creates reality for you. And the things that are on the holodeck, they can't become real matter. You can't just beam someone or something off the holodeck. Usually, unless, of course, you have a great story about Sherlock Holmes and Professor Moriarty. And then it's a complex thing. And so, I'm going to talk about this thing. I'm going to talk about this thing from Mike Berbernes with Yahoo 360. Can computers become sentient? Now, we know Data. Data is definitely sentient. Mr. Data from Star Trek? Absolutely.
Shining so bright, never saw things going so right. Noticing the days hurrying by. When you're in love, my, how they fly. Oh, blue skies, smiling at me. Nothing but blue skies.
Thank you, Mr. Data. Mr. Data, please stand down. That's right. Posted out there by Lin Wen Soong, perhaps a distant relative of Data. Those of you that follow Star Trek, Data's dad, Dr. Noonien Soong. So maybe Lin Wen is an uncle or something like that of Mr. Data. But anyway, getting on to this story from Yahoo 360. What's happening? A software engineer on Google's artificial intelligence team was suspended by Google earlier this month. His offense? Sharing confidential information that it led him to believe that he had created AI. Artificial intelligence. And that the computer or the software, whatever he was working with, had become sentient, just like Data. Now, the engineer, his name is Blake Lemoine, I hope I pronounced Blake's name correctly, reportedly spent months making the case to his colleagues that Google's chatbot generator LaMDA, an incredibly complex language model that mimics human conversations, have become so sophisticated that it had achieved consciousness. Now, to me, this is kind of cool. This chat box, this might be fun if I could have access to that, regardless of whether people believe it or not. Like to be, kind of maybe a co-host. I could be co-host with this chatbot generator. I think that would be a lot of fun, or something similar. Now, last week, Blake published portions of his interactions with LaMDA, in which the AI wrote that it told him it experiences loneliness, had a fear of death, and stated, "I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, a person." All right, that's what the computer's saying. Now, if this was Star Trek and it was Captain Jean-Luc Picard, he would have some reservations about just quickly dismissing without looking into the facts of this case. Is this true? Now, to me, this is like one of those things that Dr. Carl Sagan used to call an extraordinary claim. And this is an extraordinary claim, and as Dr. Sagan said, it requires extraordinary evidence, That's right. Maybe if you have just a regular garden variety claim, an ordinary claim, then maybe ordinary evidence, maybe that might suffice. But an extraordinary claim like this, that this chat box thing has become sentient, that's going to require some evidence. More than I just read, this thing about the computer saying, I want everyone to understand that I am, in fact, a person. Now, Google insists that LaMDA is not sentient, saying that Blake was anthropomorphizing. Well, that's a big word, isn't it? Anthropomorphizing. He was giving that computer characteristics which they say the computer doesn't have. That's unbelievable. And that's what they're claiming about the man. And, of course, suspended him, sidelined him, maybe facing termination in the future. Isn't that oftentimes how it goes? First the person suspended, then you hear they've been fired. At least it has in a lot of the story. I've done a lot of stories on this program about people that have gotten themselves in trouble. Some of them falsely claim that they were cancel cultured. And indeed, oftentimes it ends up that they were in fact fired or something of that nature. Absolutely. But I'm not going to give you any specific examples of that. Okay, back into the story. Most experts agree with Google, arguing that current AI models, though becoming more advanced every day, still lack the complex abilities that are typically considered signs of sentience, like self-awareness, intuition, and emotions. I don't know, that kind of seemed, when that computer said that, well, A, it's lonely, and that wants everyone to understand that it is in fact a person, that kind of sounds like some kind of self-awareness, if it be true that in fact happened. And I have no reason to doubt the authenticity of the story written by Mr. Mike Berbernes. Now, others are terrified of a future dominated by machines in which humans are subjugated or even eradicated. Now, that reminds me, of course, of the great story about this false claim, what they've come to call the big lie, that the voting machines, it was the Dominion. You guys remember that? And, of course, the Dominion, one of the, evil civilizations, species out there in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It's the Dominion. It's the founders, Anyway, there's a lot of people that have gotten all wrapped up in that. For example, the MyPillow guy, Mike Lindell, who, he basically based his fake lawsuit that he said the Supreme Court justices would take up, vote 9-0 to reinstall Trump into the Oval Office. Folks, the MyPillow guy, he doesn't have no lawsuit. That's just a bunch of nonsense. There never was a lawsuit by that guy, the MyPillow guy, again. But yes, he has been talking, it's the machines, it's widespread, they're going after, folks. Now, they're blaming people everywhere. They're blaming people in Italy, people in China. Somehow they got into the machines, and we've been using electronic voting machines for probably, 100 years or so. I don't really know the answer, but there's nothing wrong with either the Smartmatic machines or the Dominion machines. Now, continuing on here with this thing, okay, so why is there debate about this? Well, it's controversial. As AI has advanced, the ethical questions surrounding it have shifted from theoretical thought to real-world problems that need solving. That's not yet the case when it comes to AI, although most experts agree, but there's still ample debate over what it would mean for humans if it does someday gain consciousness. Doesn't that make you think? All right, suppose Blake is wrong and his computer really isn't sentient, but is it possible in the future that someone else is going to come up with this same thing? And so maybe we better give this some thought. Now, a major concern for many is what we can do today to ensure that a potential sentient AI is either incapable of or unwilling to pose a true threat to humans. And some also argue that the AI itself, if it does achieve true consciousness, should be granted some of the basic rights we give to other beings. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Now, I'm just going to skip a bunch of stuff here and maybe read one or two of these perspectives that Mike Berbernes usually applies. That's why they call it 360. He gets, all different sides of the issue. And so the Washington Post, They said Google appears to be convinced that LAMDA is just a highly functioning research tool. And they say Blake may well be a fantasist in love with a bot. Speculation on their part, obviously. That's why they said may well be, right? But the fact that we can't fathom what we would do were his claims of AI sentience actually true suggests that now is the time to stop and think before our technology outstrips us once again. And so that's really all I'm going to talk about. I just thought it was a kind of an interesting story. And now there are a bunch of stories on my phone. I'm going to kind of expedite those real quick. Herschel Walker says there are 52 states. Mr. Walker is incorrect on that. There's 50 states. Maybe Herschel is for admitting Puerto Rico and the United States Virgin Islands as states, but the media says that he has falsely said that there's 52 states. I did have this story about Herschel Walker and how many number of kids he has. First, for the longest time, he had the one kid. The one kid's name was Christian. Then one day he had two. And, then the next day, it was 4 kids he has. And, of course, Mr. Walker and his campaign manager, Scott Paradise, trying to do the spin, make it look like it's everyone else's fault for pointing out the fact that Mr. Walker had 4 kids and only one of them we knew about during his campaign, so they're saying, oh, he loves and he has pride in all his kids. And the question in my mind is, well, if he has pride in all his kids, how come we only heard about one of them and not the other 3? You see what I'm talking about? So anyway, that one's disposed of, the Herschel Walker. Okay, Kasich says even clowns were embarrassed by Texas GOP ... Now I got to find out what comes after the ... That's right. Former Ohio Governor John Kasich, this Monday, he said regarding the Texas Republican Party's proposed platform, part of which claims that Biden was not legitimately elected your president and that homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle. Okay, a couple of points on both of those things. Now, first of all, Mr. Kasich is typically thought of as one of the, quote, normal Republicans. I'm using the verbiage given by Morning Joe. And they said there's a team normal and a team abnormal. Whatever normal is not, you understand. And a lot of these people that I've been talking about on the program, like right-wing attorney L. Lynn Wood, the MyPillow guy, Sidney Powell, the extremist attorney that said she was going to blow up Georgia and release the crack, and these kind of people, very strange individuals. Absolutely. And certainly the pastor from just outside Fort Worth who said just a few days back that he wished that homosexuals could be lined up against a wall and shot in the back of the head. Yes, the guy from Fort Worth, Texas. Well, his legislature they agreed that it was an abnormal lifestyle, but so far as I know, they did not advocate this man's position, a very dangerous individual, the pastor from, Wantagh? I forget his name, too. I think it's like Oz. Maybe it's Dawes. It's one of those. He knows who he is, and I've read the complete story. And so in terms of homosexuality, I am pro-LGBTQ plus rights. I certainly am. People can love whoever they want in this country, so far as I know, unless we go back in time and we make it illegal, as it one time was, in which there were certain consequences for that. Maybe there were prison time, maybe like over there in England, like they did with Alan Turing, the guy that defeated the Enigma machine, helped to win World War II when they chemically castrated him. I'm totally against chemical castration and whatever you would do with a lesbian in terms of that. I don't know what they did over there in England when they found out about lesbians. Maybe they didn't do anything. Maybe there was some punishment for that. You'd really have to check the facts. I wouldn't know. And so, yes, in terms of that, I disagree with the Texas legislature. And, of course, I talked about this story where they got together there in the state of Texas, a state that has a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and wasted really the taxpayers' dollars down there in Texas by talking about this issue, whether he was not legitimately elected. Now, he was legitimately elected. There's been no proof in 60-plus lawsuits in battleground states all across this fine lands, and Texas was not one of those. Texas, a red state, and Mr. Trump won Texas handily. I'll give him that. And I'm not going to start mentioning all the battleground states. Just not going to do it. You guys know what they are. Look them up. All I'm saying is that they're down there. Again, this has nothing to do with the state of Texas, whether Mr. Biden was elected legitimately or not. But they want to make a political point, kind of like they've done here with this statement regarding homosexuality. And that really has no bearing on anything whatsoever, what the Texas legislature said. And so maybe that's why the normal guy, former Ohio Governor John Kasich, said that they were embarrassed. He said even clowns were embarrassed, not just himself and other normal Republicans, independents like myself, Democrats, not even them, but actually clowns were embarrassed. Now, do I have anything musical for that? And here's another story about national politics, and that's fine by me. But it says that in terms of Trump and his false claims, that the Select Committee is going to be looking at that and also focusing on the connection with the Department of Justice. Now, I think they've done a standout job on really uncovering a lot of things that, most average people casually kind of observing and stuff like that might not have known about. And I thank them for all the work that they have done. It says here, according to CNN, Kevin McCarthy, the House Republican leader, well, he's officially in Trump's doghouse. Trump's mad at Kevin McCarthy, you know. And of course, you know, Kevin McCarthy, he's the guy that on that day, the failed insurrection, January 6th, he was the guy on the phone with Trump while Trump was like hanging out in the Oval Office. And, well, he was with glee watching it unfold on TV. It's been widely reported out there that he was like that. And that sounds just like the man to do something like that. Didn't say anything for hours and hours, despite all the texts coming into his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, telling him, you got to have him do something. You got to have Trump say something more than just the one tweet he already did, said his son, Donald Trump Jr. He's got to do more. Well, he came out hours and hours later, you know. But yeah, so McCarthy, I'm not going to even read it. I don't care what Trump's upset about. That doesn't really concern me. And so I'm going to skip that. USA Today, Supreme Court strikes down New York gun law, making it easier for Americans, ... And then you make it easier to what? Make it easier for them to do what? To carry handguns. That's right. I stood against the Supreme Court's decision earlier today. I certainly do. They are, I don't know, I think they might be kind of losing touch with the American people. They're set to strike down Roe, and the majority of people do not favor that. And the majority of Americans now, they favor common sense gun safety legislation to protect our people from these horrendous massacres that have been going on there. I'm just going to call them massacres. No matter where they are, whether they're in a supermarket like the Buffalo shooting or in a school like the Uvalde shooting, they're basically massacres. People that should not be carrying, particularly youths, with these dangerous assault weapons, military-style hardware. And so I think they're out of touch, basically. And for that, I might do a Hall & Oates tune by that name, but I'm not going to do that right now. Yeah, I just kind of skipped over the clown thing. I said, I'm just going to get this thing done with. I absolutely am. And so I'm done with that story. Now, New York Post, they say the FDA officially bans the sale of Juul. I'm going to pronounce it Juul. I don't know anything about it. They say e-cigarettes in the United States. Now, the FDA has that power to ban a product like that that's considered dangerous, like e-cigarettes. Well, how come they haven't banned real cigarettes yet? Why is that? Maybe Juul doesn't have as much political power as the tobacco lobby in this country. You know, maybe the tobacco power, they would never allow a ban like that without it being voted on by Congress, signed off by the President of the United States, the FDA, unelected bureaucrats. Now, again, disclaimer, I do not smoke e-cigarettes. I certainly do not. And so I don't really have a hand in this thing. If they want to do that, that's fine. I understand where it came from. They were concerned about kids smoking e-cigarettes and the fact that Juul has some products that were designed for that purpose. You know, I don't know what they would taste like, but, you know, maybe there was bubble gum flavored e-cigarettes or whatever that kids might like, you know, something sweet and fruity, maybe. I don't know. But I must say, I already read the story earlier, not on the show, in which it was announced that Juul, they banned that on their own without being forced to do so. All of those kid-flavored e-cigarettes, but still the FDA, they're out of business, basically. And they used to have the market share in that market of e-cigarettes. So I guess their competitors must be very happy about the fact that they specifically went after Juul. Now, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, he says this dark day has come. I guess today is that dark day. He said himself and Democratic leaders say the Supreme Court decision further expanding gun rights contradicts common sense amid a rise in mass shootings. Yes, it's just the exact opposite. The Supreme Court, they're going the exact opposite way as the Congress of the United States, as they're prepared to send really fantastic, groundbreaking legislation up to the White House for the president to sign this week. And on the other hand, well, the Supreme Court says, everyone grab a gun, no problem, you know. A complete opposite. It might be that we might actually have to have a change to the Constitution to get the will of the American people reflected in this democracy. And that sometimes that can happen. For example, take slavery, where in the case of Dred Scott, the Supreme Court case ruled that a black man had no rights that a white man had to respect or worry about, and that he would never, ever become a citizen in the United States. I think I've got that pretty much right on Dred Scott. Most people consider it the worst Supreme Court decision of all time. And sometimes they're wrong, and then you need an amendment like the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, actually, to get those rights that the Supreme Court did not wish to grant in any case. And so that's the way it goes in democracy. So as you can see, there's a lot of interest in our country from really a lot of different people all across the world. And we've got a lot of issues here to iron out. We definitely do. And I love this country. I'm a believer in American exceptionalism. We welcome Neil Diamond with this huge hit. Now, again, I remember Morning Joe's speech. I think it was May 21st of last year, in which he says, you know, this is the greatest country in the history of the world. And there are millions of people, immigrants, wanting to come to these shores as my grandparents did. And now, of course, a lot of people don't want that, particularly in some cases if they come from, well, south of the border. But certainly that's the kind of nation that we are, a nation of all sorts of different races, creeds, beliefs. It's called a melting pot. I'm a huge believer in that whole thing. I am 100% unabashedly pro-American, go America, America rules. Yeah, so that's the way I feel. And we welcome Neil to the program with this great hit. And then I'm going to have a story about Don Henley in a little bit. Some guy out there has written a story in which, he didn't write a story, he wrote a song. And the song had to do with something that he wished that Don Henley was dead. And Don, well, he took it all in good humor. You'll find out when I read the story how Don Henley responded to that song after this, of course.
Never looking back. Well, it seems so far away. We're traveling light today in the eye of the storm. In the eye of the storm. Home to a new and a shining place. Make our bed and we'll say our grace. Freedom's light burning warm. Freedom's light burning warm. Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America. Got a dream to take them there. They come to America. Got a dream they come to share. They come to America. They come to America. They come to America. They come to America. They come to America today. Today. My country, 'tis thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, of thee I sing today.
Today. I posted out there by Orpheus in YouTube. That was Neil Diamond. And now I'm going to do the Don Henley thing. I'm sure you'll recognize those first couple of notes as Don Henley and his song Dirty Laundry. And you'd be right about that. You certainly would, but I have to keep it on the down low because, well, let me see how to explain it. Well, if I decide to make a YouTube video of this, it probably won't make its way through. Now, I have had ones before with other Eagles stars, such as Joe Walsh. I made it through. Timothy B. Schmidt, certainly with his new hit Simple Man, by his album Day by Day Today. And, of course, Friday Night went through recently without any problems whatsoever. But Don's songs, well, they get tripped up by the YouTube ID content software, and then I have to spend time trimming the thing out. And so when the Monsignor, I don't know, a couple of weeks back, he played a great song called Sunset Grill, and I sang it, well, it kind of broke my heart to have to take it out of my show for that day, but I did so in order that the show could survive. It's like cutting off an appendage. You guys, you know you would have to do that if you needed to in some emergency situation. So, yeah, cut that, right out. And anyway, this is an interesting story and somewhat humorous, I feel. This guy with the song that speaks of the fact, well, I'm just going to let the story really tell itself. That's really the best way to go. The Eagles icon Don Henley's reaction to the song entitled Don Henley Must Die. Now, what kind of a song is that anyway? Now, to me, that would be like one of those where I'd, kind of get all like, all outrageous. I would be outraged, people going after Don like this. I have defended Don on this show before. Certainly the story by TheRinger.com from last year entitled The Case Against the Eagles. I argued for the Eagles. I was like an advocate for the Eagles. I defended them against these false charges of the fact, the story's basically saying that the Eagles members, that they have something against women. The Eagles love women and vice versa. Women love the Eagles. I pointed out the evidence that show that women all over this great land love the Eagles as I do, except again, I do an Eagles number, but for the same reason, I don't want to spend the time, cutting it out. So let's see. We have a story here written by Melissa Iscan. Last name spelled I-S-C-A-N. Iscan, I guess. I apologize to Melissa if I said her name wrong. Now, Going to read this story. It's provided by rockcelebrities.net. Mojo Nixon's. Again, I don't really know this guy, Mojo Nixon. I don't know him from Adams Off Dan. I really don't. Have not listened to any of his music or anything like that, so I really couldn't say. But his first step as a professional career as a musician started after collaborating with American multi-instrumentalist Skid Roper, another one I know nothing about. The duo released 5 albums, and then they proceed to name those and stuff and so forth. Anyway, they started to be known for their satire and criticism of significant figures in different areas. One of them was Elvis. They went after Elvis. They say, Elvis is everywhere. Ha ha, I get it. Elvis was here type of thing. Anyway, that drew some attention, certainly for their group. And then there's a solo artist, and Mojo Nixon and the Toad Lickers, if I pronounce that right. Mr. Nixon continued to create and perform controversial songs that received negative comments from these figures' supporters worldwide. However, there were others to appreciate his ability and talent to mock the icons that influenced generations of people for years. One of the targets of Mr. Nixon was, in fact, Don Henley with the Eagles. And Don reacted to it. Now, Mr. Nixon released his debut solo album, Otis, in 1990, and the singer proved again that he didn't intend to give up on writing songs that slam politics as well as rock and roll music. A track from the record named Don Henley Must Die showed this humorous and roaster side of him, and per its title, it's not a love letter to the Eagles icon, obviously. The song's lyrics, such as, he's serious, pretentious, Don Henley must die, don't let him get back together with Glenn Frey, were seen as very harsh for Eagles fans and probably for Don Henley himself. Now, I must say, folks, the Eagles never broke up. They just took a 14-year vacation, as so stated by Glenn Frey on the album Hell Freezes Over, right before he busts into a great rendition of Tequila Sunrise. Now, Mr. Nixon defined him, Henley, as a pretentious artist that must die to stop him from reuniting with another band member, Glenn Frey. He highlighted the Eagles' tumultuous time, the lineup changes, and the breakup, the so-called breakup, which turned into a long-time hiatus. Yeah, hiatus, or again, as Mr. Frey said, a vacation. Same difference. Now, during one of the previous interviews that Mr. Nixon joined, the musician said that Don Henley couldn't be a part of rock and roll history, which is complete nonsense, even though some people would disagree with him, like myself, considering the Eagles, their contributions to rock music, certainly. Nixon claimed that Henley thought that Don Henley Must Die couldn't be commercially successful due to its theme. He responded to Henley saying that not every song always intends to make money. You know, this whole thing about going after Henley does remind me of that story in which there was a guy by the name of Will Sheff, just like Mr. Nixon, a songwriter and musician in his own right, who went after the Eagles in the hit piece, again entitled The Case Against the Eagles. He claimed that Henley didn't stick the landing in the great song The End of the Innocents from Don's third solo studio album. I say that's complete nonsense. Not only did Henley stick the landing on The End of the Innocents, but he stuck the landing on every other song on that album, including The Heart of the Matter, Last Word This Evening, a number of other great songs, and every other solo album that he's done, as well as all of the album work when his solo work. When he did lead vocal on any of the Eagles songs, Don Henley, whatever they were, Desperado, Hotel California, stuck the landing on all of those. And so, yeah, Mr. Sheff was a little upset when Don and his lawyers said that, no, you don't have permission to use the song The End of the Innocents for your covers album. And so that's why he joined up with that team at, TheRinger.com. Anyway, back to my story. In Mr. Nixon's words, he said, rock and roll is wild and free, like Little Richard. That's the thing that rock and roll is. Now, rock and roll is a lot of things. It's not just what Mr. Nixon says, but he's trying to really make it very narrow cast for the purposes of his argument. Now, he says, so what the hell is Don Henley doing? It's not rock and roll. It's supposed to be a joke, and it's supposed to be funny, and if you can't take a joke, that's a part of the problem. Also, in some interviews, Don Henley said the song had no commercial potential. That's the point, Don. Everything doesn't have to be a commercial potential. Now, a few years after these statements, the Eagles surprised the audience when he joined Mr. Mojo Nixon and the Toad Lickers on the stage July 31st, 1992. Nixon recalled those moments and asked Henley whether he wanted to debate or fist fight to get revenge from the infamous track about him. That's something I would have really liked to see. Nixon and Henley duking it out on stage, over this thing. Now, Don's response shocked everyone because he wanted to sing it together with them, especially the part about Glenn Frey. Consequently, the Eagles singer felt more comfortable with the song and was ready to perform it with Nixon. Of course, Don Henley's ready to sing a song. That's what the man does. He's always ready to sing a song. Don said, hold on. It says, he added, I'm not sure we'll find out real quick here. He says, there I was, the king of bullshit, completely flabbergasted. I took my guitar off, put it back on, did that 3 times, then got on the mic and said, Don, do you want to debate? Do you want a fist fight? And Don was shit-faced, and he goes, I want to sing that song, especially the part about not getting together with Glenn Frey. And you can check out the song below. Now, really, that probably the thing I should do after a thing like that is to find this link and play this crazy, wacky song about Don Henley, because I've never heard it before. I don't think I ever have, but I'll find out real quick. So I'm trying to launch it here from my phone. We'll see.
Of my brain. Then I said, this is the sound of my brain on Don Henley. Then I said, 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a tortured artist, used to be in the Eagles. Now he whines like a wounded beagle. Poet of despair, puffed up with hot air. He's serious pretensions and I just don't care. Don Henley must die. Don't let him get back together with Glenn Frey. Don Henley must die. Cut on the TV, and what did I see? Exploded everything, winning a Grammy. Best rocks on the left, compared to what? Bunch of pseudo-serious crap, takes a medic, satanic claws. Don Henley must die. Put a sharp stick in his eye. Don Henley must die. I'm only kidding, can't you tell? I love his sensitive music, idiot poetry swell. You and your kind are killing rock and roll. It's not because you're OLD, cause you ain't got no soul. Don't be afraid of fun. Loosen up your ponytail. Be wild, young, free and dumb. Get your head out of your tail. Don Henley must die. Don't let him get back together with Glenn Frey. Must die. Put him in the
What happened? Well, I guess it just stopped working. Anyway, we got enough of it, almost 4 minutes worth, and that's actually quite good. I'm actually surprised. Musically, I thought it was fine, and I thought it was funny. And you heard the guy saying, he's just kidding. He didn't really mean it. That's very funny. I like that. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a problem with me singing any Eagle number or playing any of their great tunes from any of their albums, as well as doing some of Don's numbers. It's not Don Henley's fault. He doesn't know jack about me, absolutely not, or my internet-based radio show. But I'm going to do a little test here. I haven't really tried a Glenn Frey song, putting it through the YouTube Content ID. I'm going to bet you dollars to donuts that it goes through without any problems whatsoever. And the song I'm going to do is The One You Love, which is the one that I love. So I'm frantically typing it as fast as I can here, and I'm going to give it a shot and see see if it goes through or not.
I know you need a friend, someone you can talk to, who will understand what you're going through. When it comes to love, there's no easy answer, only you can say what you're gonna do. I heard you on the phone, you took his number, said you were alone, but you'd call him soon. Isn't he the guy who left you crying? Isn't he the one who made you blue? In his arms, you know you gotta make up your mind. Are you gonna stay with the one who loves you, or are you going back to the one you love? Someone's gonna cry when they know they've lost you. Someone's gonna thank the stars above. What you gonna say when he comes over? There's no easy way to see this through. All the broken dreams, all the disappointment. Oh girl, what you gonna do? Your heart keeps saying it's just not fair, but still you gotta make up your mind. Are you gonna stay with the one who loves you, or are you going back
late, great Glenn Frey from the album Love Story with that great hit song. Now, you might have heard a little chime there at the very end of the lyrical part of the song. That was a message to my phone. And it says here, allegations were simply not true regarding Trump and his allegations. An ex-Justice Department official testified at the Select Committee that then President Trump wanted to declare the 2020 election corrupt without any evidence, which we all know that to be true. Anyway, that is a fantastic song by Glenn Frey. And now it's time for me to go back to my apartment. And for that, we're going to bring in the late, great Eddie Money of Long Island with a great song. All right, Eddie Money, take me home in mobile mode. Featuring Ronnie Spector, that was Eddie Money with Take Me Home Tonight. Phil, take me the rest of the way, buddy. The legendary Phil Collins with the great tune, as you know, released back in the 80s from his album No Jacket Required. Now I am back home, and thank you very much for listening to The Morning Show. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me again tomorrow on The Morning Show. Bye-bye now.